Okay, image sharpening. Yes. A lot of people say to me, Andy, Unsharp mask for image sharpening. Couple of things. What on earth does it mean, Unsharp mask? And if it is like it sounds, how can anything unsharp actually make something sharper? Good question. I don't know who on earth invented the Unsharp mask, but it was an awful long time ago, way before the advent of digital cameras and software and Photoshop. Unsharp mask was a technique I sometimes used to use on large format negative film inside the black and white darkroom. I once tried to use it in colour and it was a nightmare. But it was quite a common technique to actually use. And what we used to do is we'd start out with a negative, and then if we were going to do a very, very, very large print from that negative, we used to find that making an unsharp mask would actually help the sharpness of that very large print. And basically what we'd do, if we think of this image inside of Photoshop now as our negative out of our camera, what we need to do is we need to duplicate this negative, but we don't want to really duplicate it. What we want to do is make a positive from it, which is exactly the same size. So what we're going to do is, inside of Photoshop, I'm going to try and replicate the old process of making an unsharp mask for use in the darkroom with film. Those were the days when we used to use chemicals that made our fingers fall off. Oh, happy days, yes. But anyway, what we need to do is we need to make a duplicate of this negative, which will be a positive. But then that positive also needs to be low in contrast, and it also needs to be slightly out of focus. So here we go. So I'm going to go image and I'm going to go duplicate, and I'm going to call this USM for unsharp mask. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to image, adjustments, and invert. Now I've got our positive version of our negative, if you like, and I'm going to go to adjustments and I'm going to go to curves, and I'm going to get the whites and I'm going to drop them down to around about 70%, and I'm going to get the blacks and I'm going to lift them up to probably around 25 to 26%, and that's it. I don't need to do anything else to that curve. All I've done is flattened the curve. Well, I've not flattened it, but I've made it an awful lot flatter and more horizontal than it was. So what we've effectively done is drop the contrast. So I'm just going to go layer and I'll go flatten image, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to blur and Gaussian blur to simulate the slightly out of focus production, and that'll do. I'll just put 1.5 pixels worth of Gaussian blur on it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to think back into a darkroom with an enlarger. I'm actually now going to put this weak contrast out of focus positive sandwiched together with the original negative in the enlarger carrier, or the negative carrier of the enlarger. So I'm just going to go and grab the move tool and I'm going to drag and drop it, holding down the shift key onto our original negative, and let go. And there we go, we've now got our modified positive weak contrast, slightly fuzzy and out of focus product in conjunction with the original negative in the neg carrier of the enlarger. However, it wouldn't actually look like this when we shone it down onto our large piece of printing paper. It would actually look something like, it always works in Photoshop, this demo always works in Photoshop in the divide blend mode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to blow this edge up so we can see. first off, I'm going to show you our original image. Yeah, there it is. Now we've actually put the Unsharp mask in on top of it, and there we go, and you can see we've sharpened it up. Something shocking. Yeah, it does work. But what we would do is we would actually modify the actual Unsharp mask, and we would actually modify the exposure time, etc., which would indeed reduce the actual sharpening effect so it wasn't overly sharp. Something probably around about like that actually simulates it a lot better. So there's our unsharpened negative, and there it is in conjunction with the Unsharp mask. So there you go. Yes, Unsharp mask. That was fun, wasn't it? Yeah, I always keep telling people there is nothing new in digital photography. That's actually a lie, but sort of. But yeah, most things are old. Yeah, it's old tech. Right, now then, all I'm going to say now is, for goodness sake, please, 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 don't try this on your digital images out of your camera, because it'll just make an awful mess. What you need to do is actually utilize the proper Unsharp mask algorithms inside the likes of Photoshop, but always bear in mind that the amount slider, the radius slider, and the threshold slider all relate to the basic qualities, or those three qualities, of that Unsharp mask that we used to make out of film. These are the amount of contrast reduction and the amount of out of focus or blurring, if you like, that we used to do to that modified mask, which is, to all intents and purposes, exactly what it was. So there you go, a demonstration of Unsharp mask, the sort of way it works in the background, but a bit of a crude Heath Robinson demonstration. But that's how we used to do it 30-40 years ago in the proper physical darkroom with all the lovely chemicals that made your fingers fall off. Yay!